Episode 319 of the TV Dudes, recorded February 3rd, 2021. Inconvenient Bodies. This week we're talking about Inconvenient Bodies. It may be the Dead Bodies in The Sister on HULU, or Resident Alien on SYFY, or it may be the body issues of the protagonists on Miranda on BBC, or the remake of Call Me Cat on Fox. We'll find all that out. But before we do that, I'm Randy.
And I'm Kyle.
And we're the TV Dudes.
TV Dudes in.
Les is not here this week. He had some personal stuff he had to deal with. He will be back next week. So Kyle and I are going to run through a few shows.
Mm-hmm. This is a rare two-person TV Dude setup. It's kind of like a Terry Gross and guest dynamic we got going on. Who's going to be the Terry Gross, though?
Are we going to...
Who can get more monotone in their voice and talk kind of on this register right here the whole time?
Kyle, I'd like to know how you're doing on this kind of thing. And please, Kyle, could you go ahead and give us the power rankings?
Well, Randy, since you asked so... I can't do a whole show like that.
No, it'd be impossible.
But that would be a fantasy of mine to have Terry Gross do the power rankings. Yeah, because, anybody can tell you what they like. That's kind of the whole point of this podcast here. But if you want to know what's good, you got to talk to an old friend of ours, the internet. Talk about somebody with some body issues. That's where everybody goes to pour their body issues out. And what do people complaining about their body issues do? Well, they rank TV shows. They go on the IMDb, the RT. You add those together, you get the TVD power rankings. It's a very simple formula we have here. You just add it up, people. It's not rocket science. It's just a bunch of hit and refresh on IMDb pages all day to get you guys the definitive rankings. And yeah, looking this week, not a lot of movement. I did notice that we had kind of a underdog in that show, Miss Scarlet and the Duke. Which had a 86 and a 93 audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. Yeah, I don't know what Rotten Tomatoes did, but it had a 0 audience score when I checked this morning.
Looks like the underdog got put down.
Yeah, no, it's back down to where it's at. It'd be really funny if it was just somebody like spamming the page, or what if PBS was like doing unscrupulous practices, getting bots to go on. I don't want to speculate. I don't want to, get in bad with PBS. But let's get into this week. So kind of, shifting around, tied for number 9 is Doctor Who Season 13, just came back on BBC America, and The Blacklist Season 8, back on NBC on the 22nd, both with 80s. Oh, wait a second. Is that an 86?
Yeah.
Oh, no, sorry. Both with 253 out of 300. Sorry, I was looking in the wrong column.
Yeah, they got the total scores higher, but Doctor Who gets a little rated higher on IMDb and on Rotten Tomatoes, but the audience score for Blacklist is higher. It's the people's favorite.
Yeah. Well, and it's knocking out Miss Scarlet and the Duke, and then Blacklist was number 7 last week, so it's actually...
It dropped.
Fallen, from a 258 to a 253. That's kind of cool. This is new for 2021. We've never had the comparison before. Last year, our list just changed.
Right. Yeah, all the time.
Number 8 on the list, All Creatures Great and Small. Season 2 over on PBS, 254 out of 300. Excited to check that one out. I think we're talking that next week.
That's the plan.
Yep. Number 7 on the list, Season 5 of This Is Us on NBC. It's a show a lot of people like. This is proof of that. Tied for number 5. Actually, I saw the scores drop a little bit on Search Party Season 4, which is tied with A Discovery of Witches over on Shudder Season 2, both with 258 out of 300. Really high scores. And then a show that I've been meaning to check out. We've say that every time we mention it, but number 4 right now is Gomorrah season 5.
That keeps
over on HBO Max
that
now.
keeps getting me. It's an Italian crime drama or something, isn't it?
Yeah, I swear I get this one confused with Bosch.
Yeah.
Like in my head, I'm trying to think of that show, but I just see that guy, that Bosch guy.
Titus Welliver, yep.
I used to do this with Burn Notice and Dexter before I watched Dexter. I was like, those are the same shows, right?
Very different shows.
So, getting into some excitement on the power rankings, kind of a new contender busting into the list in the number 3 spot. Alan Tudyk over on the SYFY channel, Resident Alien.
Which we're going to talk about this week.
Yeah. And, it's one of those names where it's like he's a medical resident, kind of, but he's also an alien, and, comedy ensues.
Yeah.
And then the number 1 and 2 spots are the same as last week. Cobra Kai Season 3, which premiered first of the year, so only has another week or two left on the countdown. That is in the number 2 spot with the 270. Scores haven't changed on that for a couple weeks. And then ranked in number 1, which I didn't watch as of last week, but I've watched it since. And that's In and of Itself on Hulu.
Yeah.
And it just took my breath away.
Okay.
I
know that Les really liked that. He talked about it last week.
It is interesting because normally, I'd say, I didn't watch the show, I shouldn't talk about it. But the thing is, even after you watch this, you can't talk about it. Like, you really have to let people go in cold. I promise you, if you're just have nothing else to do that night and you want truly I don't know what this is experience, this is definitely going to satisfy. If you learn a little bit about it, you might find it interesting too. But yeah, it is. Remember when we saw that Hassan Minaj Homecoming King?
Yeah, Homecoming King, yeah.
This thing was great. It's like I didn't realize how much I could be captivated by storytelling. Now imagine if that guy was doing magic the whole time and the whole thing was a misdirect, but really he was telling you the truth the entire way. And I don't even think I'm giving anything away by that. It's just a really unique experience. And the best description I've heard is people kind of paint themselves onto it. So the show almost serves as a mirror to where you're going to see what he's doing, but depending on what your experience is, that's what you're going to kind of see reflected back to you.
Okay, well, I may have to give that one a look.
Yeah.
You and Les have both spoken highly, so maybe I'll check it out next week amongst the other TV homework. Which brings us over to our TV diaries. I kind of went a little nuts this week. I don't know if you looked at my entries. I've got a lot.
You whooped me on the list.
I watched a lot of stuff this week. So, in addition to our homework, I watched Resident Alien Season 1, Episode 1. I watched 2 episodes of Walker, which we're going to talk about next week. I watched the entirety of The Sister, which is 4 episodes.
Nice.
Then we'll talk about that in a few minutes. I caught up on Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist had a new episode. WandaVision, of course, had a new episode. I watched the entire second half of the first season of Cougar Town, which I'm now really enjoying. I watched an episode of Mr. Mayor, which I think is the last episode of Mr. Mayor I'm watching. I just don't see it. I watched a few more episodes of Mad About You.
It broke you.
Yeah, it broke me. I watched an episode of Best Leftovers Ever, which Les had talked about early on. I watched the first episode of Great North, which is an animated show from the Bob's Burgers crew.
Oh, what did you think? I watched this too.
Did not like it at all.
Damn. Too soon to tell. Give it a second episode. Well, I haven't seen the second one yet, but
we'll
I'm rooting for it.
I love Bob's Burgers.
Nick Offerman.
I really like Central Park. This is a great voice cast, but I just did not care at all about that, and it didn't make me laugh once. So I don't know. We'll see. Also caught a couple movies. Beyond Prince of Darkness. I finally watched Cowboys and Aliens because I love Jon Favreau. And
Oh yeah.
I was like, the word of mouth is so bad on this, but it can't be that bad, can it? It is. It's just aggressively mediocre. It was so disappointing.
Imagine going to see that movie opening night, like
Oof.
staring at that poster for months. It was kind of like the mediocreness of it was just heartbreaking.
Yeah, that would have been rough.
It kind of ruined a little part of Daniel Craig for me.
Yeah.
That he didn't get back till Knives Out.
Yeah, I get that. Also, Daniel Craig having a weird American accent that sounded like he was echoing Harrison Ford. Very weird.
Yeah.
Also watched The Little Things, which is an original movie. That one of the movies was going to be released in theaters. It's Denzel Washington, Jared Leto, and Rami. What's his name?
Malek.
Rami Malek.
Rami Malek.
Yeah, and a little cameo thing with Nellie Morales from Middleman and the Abby's Place and a bunch of other stuff she's great in. But she's in there for just a few minutes, just a side character. I liked this. It's been very divisive. Some of my friends hated it. Some of them thought it was kind of mediocre. I thought it was pretty good. I enjoyed it, and we'll definitely talk about that on the Patreon this week. I think other than watching an episode of West Wing and another episode of... I think that's everything. I think it's everything I watched. Yeah.
That is a massive list.
I binged the rest of season 4 of The Detour, so I've now seen all of The Detour, which really funny sitcom on that was on TBS. Jason Jones, Natalie Z, and this 4th season was a ton of fun. I definitely recommend that to people who have Hulu.
Nice.
Kyle,
check that out.
What about you? What's on your list this week?
Yeah, catching up for next week, I had to watch Walker eat some queso this week over on the CW. I caught Prince of Darkness, which is also in next week. We're going to talk about Sisters and Resident Alien here in a minute. I found myself going down the Making It season 2 rabbit hole again. Mm-hmm. They did a weird thing where they released all the episodes in like a week or 2-week period.
Okay.
I'm not sure. It was kind of around when COVID, like the beginning of COVID. I don't quite remember the specifics, but it was just really hard to kind of get into. And then somebody that my wife follows, who's like a crafter, just mentioned casually, "Oh yeah, I was on the 2nd season of that show." So we're like, we gotta go back and watch. So yeah, and that's a lot of fun. It's just a ton of puns and great craft stuff. Very much in that same realm as like the Lego show. I just mentioned in and of itself, we're going to talk movies on Patreon this week. I watched Palmer over on Apple Plus. Mm-hmm. That new Justin Timberlake film also has is it Juno Temple, her name, from Ted Lasso?
Yeah.
A funny thing, I saw a Ted Lasso interview that she was in. It was like a webcam thing, and she looked like she didn't look great. All right. I don't want to say anything too radical if I'm wrong, but after you see this film, you're like, oh, maybe she was filming a scene from this movie because they deck her out in like the trashiest makeup. And I swear she did her Ted Lasso interview and she had either just taken that makeup off or I don't know for certain. But it's, they seem kind of close. Anyways, also watched some more of The Hustler this week. Caught WandaVision like everybody else. All watching the late night shows every week. And then, the other one is that we're going to talk about here in a bit is I caught the first episode of both Miranda on the BBC from 2010 and the American remake Call Me Kat on Fox that just came out a couple weeks ago. And really interesting choices being made and thought it was a great topic for conversation, so I brought it to our TV book club, if you may. Because TV diaries.
This seems like a good time to remind you that you can support us by going over to patreon.com/tvdudes. Throw us $1 an episode. In exchange, we get to keep up with our streaming services, pay for our hosting costs, and you get bonus content each week. This week, we're suspending our John Carpenter marathon for just a week because Kyle and I want to talk about a couple new movies that dropped on Apple Plus and HBO Max. We also have our $20 showrunner level. Yeah. So if there are shows you want us to throw into the rotation, you can buy in at that level and give us a couple ideas. I believe next week we're going to go back to Dark Side of the Ring.
Oh, I'm sure Tyler Thorson's going to be excited to hear that. I mean, literally, I cannot tell you how much flack I got because he's like, man, I pitched into your Patreon and then those guys in your podcast hated my show. And I'm like, well, you don't pay for them to like the show. You just pay for them to talk about it. And it's like, yeah, but I don't know. They were mean.
It's true. That is the thing about the Patreon. You can't pay us to like a show. You can pay us to watch a show.
That's also, this is my little brother we're talking about here. So I've been giving him this kind of abuse his whole life, and he just keeps coming back for more.
Okay, so let's talk about our new business for the week, and let's start off with The Sister, which is a 4-episode show. I believe it's a Hulu original. It might have been a co-production with BBC. It feels...
Oh, no. I think I watched the wrong thing. This isn't Tina Fey and Amy Poehler? Sisters? Crap. I was like, it's tense like Luther. This must be the right show.
So... Like I say, I don't know if this is a co-production with BBC or anything like that. It is by Neil Cross, who did Luther, and
they are putting that Hulu original tag on there, but
yeah.
I think they put that on all the British stuff they bring to America.
I think they do too. So this could have been a BBC or a Channel 4 or one of those kind of things. I'm looking at the IMDb listing to see if there's any clues, and I don't see any. So
I mean, also with the way things are done now, this could just be a Hulu Global, you know?
Yep.
Do they have Hulu in the UK? I guess we gotta ask Mampilli.
They do have Hulu, but it has an extra O in it. It's Hulu. Yeah. Yeah. So this is a story of I guess spoilers if you're not going to watch it. First, I should say I really enjoyed this. And Kyle, you've seen 2 episodes and you're liking it so far.
Yeah, there's a trailer out there where the trailer kind of gives away the first half of the first episode.
Okay.
And really, you'll know if you like this or not from that trailer. But it is really good to just go in cold too. So if you did want to duck out, this would be a good one to check the timestamps for.
So this is something of a sort of dour mystery. It's about a guy, Nathan, who is married and happily married, and then suddenly this guy Bob shows up and has news that something's going on, and it very quickly becomes clear that he and Bob know about a body that they have to move. And I don't know. I think this is made clear pretty early on, but basically the body is
Bob looks straight up like Sirius Black.
Yeah, he looks like a crazy person, and it comes out basically that the woman he married, because they jump around in time a little bit, her sister is the one who died, and he knows about it, and they buried the body. And then, when he felt guilty, he went and met the sister and fell in love with her, and they got married, and she doesn't know any of this stuff. And so they're moving the body, and then we see flashbacks to what happened that night, how the girl died.
Well, and even on a sicker level... Yeah. The only reason the sister really fell in love with him is because she found somebody who's just as tortured as she was, but she didn't realize the reason that he was tortured was, this huge nefarious reason.
Right.
Him being involved.
So basically we get these stories. We get a story of the 2 of them meeting and sort of like getting together, and we have stories of him and Bob and that night. And the story of him and the sister, whose name is Elise, yeah. And it's interesting to watch because I think that the basic story is pretty straightforward. Like this, it's twisted, but it is this guy married the sister of a woman that he either killed or knew about being killed, and he's trying to keep that life that's been his life for the past 5 years together, while this other guy from his past is dragging it all up in front of him, and the other guy from his past is a weirdo. Like he thinks he's hearing ghosts, and he thinks he's being haunted. Yeah.
And I love how this show really shows you how somebody like Chris Angel could seem fun at a party, but then you get that guy out in daylight, and you're like, he looks like Sirius Black.
Yes. So I think that the interesting thing, I don't want to give anything too much away because you haven't seen the last couple half, but the way they resolve the mystery and what happened to his sister, or what happened to the sister, what is going on, what Bob's whole agenda is really, there's some great twists and turns. I did not see it coming, even the way that they laid it out. They keep guessing all the way through. I think the secret of this is It's 4 episodes, and they're about 45 minutes apiece. So it does not linger. It is a slow burn, but it's not an extended, excruciating slow burn. Like, they give you the whole story in less time than it would take to watch a long movie.
I got into this much easier than was Hard Sun, the last one that the people who did Luther did, because I was a huge fan of Luther, still am. And I mean, one of the things I love about Luther is the slow burn. Idris Elba just looking tortured because it's like, oh, I gotta stop this person because they're a sex trafficker, but then I'm gonna give away that I murdered somebody and covered it up, and I'm a dirty cop. Torture. And this definitely has some of those Luther long shots where you're like, this dude's tortured.
Yeah, the lead actor does a great job playing tortured. He's a sort of good-looking youngish dude. What's his name? Russell Tovey. And he plays this sort of like, you can easily see him being haunted.
Mm-hmm. And you've seen this guy I mean, he did some episodes of Luther, a handful of other British shows.
I've never seen him before, but you watch way more British TV than I do.
Oh yeah, no, he does pickup characters all the time.
But Kyle, I thought you'd be all about the show because it's very British.
Yeah, not every British remake is the best. Like, what about the when House of Cards was I guess that was an American remake. Can Kevin Spacey retroactively ruin a show he remade? Like, should I watch the British House of Cards?
I didn't like the American House of Cards well enough to go back and watch the British House of Cards. So no.
Yeah, the American one was good until they did that super shocking like character death at the beginning of season 2. I don't know if you got that far, but it was like so shocking. It was like, okay, I can't believe anything else that happens on this show.
Man, I barely remember that show at this point. Wasn't that Netflix's first original?
Yeah, who I saw on there for the first time? Who? Mahershala Ali.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He was pretty notable in that, too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I can't think of seeing him in much. I mean, I know he did stuff before that, but that was the first thing where I was like, this dude's dope.
Yeah, now that you say that, I'd totally forgotten that. Anyway, I recommend The Sister. I think people should give it a shot. It's a pretty quick watch. And there's not a lot of TV on right now, it turns out.
Oh, yeah. If you get, if you say this around your like home listening device or something, you'll probably get Hulu recommendations for it. And yeah, that trailer, like I said, it's a really good trailer in the sense that it lets you jump right into the story with kind of the reason the guy's looking so tortured in the long shots.
All right, so let's jump over to the other new show this week that we watched, which is Resident Alien over on SYFY, which SYFY is, since Les is not here, I will do his complaining for him. SYFY just basically seems to hide their shows. They do not want us to watch them. If you don't have a cable hookup, SYFY is like, fuck you, you don't get to watch our shows, which, I'm sorry, your shows aren't great enough for me to track down. Like, they put this one on the NBC app or something, so while watching it through Apple TV, it popped up and I could watch it, and it watched it with commercials, and that's fine by me, do that. But, like, I have a feeling that season 2, or episode 2 and beyond, is going to be, well, if I want to see it, I got to buy it through Apple.
Mm-hmm. Or we got to wait till this time next year when it comes out on Netflix.
On Netflix, and that is probably what I'm going to wind up doing. Which is kind of a shame, because as a pilot, I thought this was an excellent pilot.
Oh, yeah. And, while we're on the topic of sci-fi and what they tend to care only about the people who are like cable sci-fi subscribers.
Yeah.
And it's always been this way. I remember back like 2 spellings ago of their name, when they originally busted out as a cable premium, that was like, you would go over to your friend's house because they had Sci-Fi Channel. And it's like, you didn't even care what was going to be on because there wasn't a ton of channels like that at the time.
Right.
But it does seem like they still have that same model where it's like, we have YouTube Live, so we have essentially cable TV, and it's on our DVR. We watch it every week. It's great, but that's literally the only way you can do it if you don't want to pay for one of the services.
Yeah, yeah. So this is interesting. The guy who made this, Chris Sheridan, he was the executive producer on the Titus show. I don't know if you remember Titus.
From
Christopher Titus, the sitcom. From Fox. Yeah. So he was the producer of that. Then he did Yes Dear, which I can't remember I never saw that one. It's God, who's the star of that one? It was another sitcom. Anthony Clark? Yeah, Anthony Clark. There's another one.
We need our Les.
Yeah, Les. I'm sure Les saw every episode. It's about two young couples and their outrageously contrasting views on parenting. This was a 90s sitcom that I completely missed.
Yeah, I recognize that guy. He did a ton of like supporting stuff.
Yeah, you saw him in every. I mean, sure, he was on Frasier. He was probably on. He's probably on Night Court at some point. Who knows? And then Chris Sheridan then went on to do Family Guy for years, like 2012 to 2021. He's been on there forever as a producer. He was executive producer from 2005 to 2012. Like he's been on there for a long, long time.
Nice.
And then this is his like breakout new thing. I thought this was really good. It feels more like a USA show than a sci-fi show. Did you get that vibe?
Yes, actually. Yeah, kind of like the TNT, TBS, USA, kind of that. It's the house style.
Yes. Like, I just happened to watch Psych episode 1 a couple weeks back, and this feels like Psych with a little bit more of a sci-fi edge. Like, here's the premise, here's all the characters, here's some fun, witty dialogue, but it's not like... They're not building a huge mythology here, or like the first episode of Burn Notice, or the first episode of White Collar. Like, this is all a premise set up, and it is all predicated on how much you like Alan Tudyk. And fortunately, I love Alan Tudyk, and he's great.
Oh, same here.
He's so
yes,
good.
Sir. No, and that was the whole reason why I, this caught my attention to begin with, because I feel like every time a show comes... I just get this impression that he just has a ton of friends and doesn't say no to anybody.
Yeah.
So you never know if he's going to be on a good show or not.
Yeah.
Like some are hits, and then some are like that DC superhero insurance show, whatever that was.
Yeah.
Underpowered or...
oh, man, I forgot.
The Forgettables with every good actor you like.
But he's really been the lead. Usually he's like... I mean, I guess this is an ensemble too, but this is really Alan Tudyk's show.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's all about him mugging for the camera and playing a wacky alien. I think my favorite part of this is when he's dancing in the bar and like acting like his body's out of control. Like, yes. that cracked me up.
Lots of really great, funny the name of the episode, but no, like lots of really great body humor because he does play it like he has just stepped into a human body for the first time and isn't used to only having two arms.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
Because in his alien form, he's got these arms that just like poke out of his chest.
Mm-hmm. Also, the bit that there's 1 in 1,000 people who can see through his alien camouflage and one of them happens to be a kid, they call it out. They do the thing where you hang it. What is it called? Hang an ornament on it, or you hang a light on it, or something like that. So like he's like, I understand this is ridiculous. We're gonna go ahead and tell you it's ridiculous, and then you're gonna go along with it. And I did because I love that he then gets drunk and he's like, I guess I'll just go murder that kid.
Yeah, God, that's so funny. And then he had just learned the middle finger.
Yes.
So literally, he's in this kid's bedroom about to kill him.
Yes.
When the parents come in and the kid's like, "Oh, there's an alien under my bed," and the mom's like, "Enough of this shit! Like, come on, you do this every night." And meanwhile, Alan Tudyk's down there giving him the middle finger.
Yes.
Like, I'd kill you right now if I could.
It's funny because it is really dark. Like he kills the doctor and takes his identity, and then he's just casually threatened to kill a kid. And it shouldn't be as funny it is, but it really is funny. I think a lot of that's Tudyk's performance.
Well, I have a theory about where they're going to go with this because they kind of left a ball hanging in the air.
Yeah.
Which is they just straight up show us he's murdering. Like the main character is only Alan Tudyk because he found a guy looked like Alan Tudyk, killed him, and took his body.
Yes. Yeah.
And it was kind of a cold-blooded way to start the show, but then you're immediately kind of thrown into the comedy of it where he's asked to oversee, oh no, the doctor in town, he's been killed somehow, and you're the only other doctor, our resident alien, to come check this out. And I was like, that would be an interesting way to do it if you find out that the Alan Tudyk he killed actually killed the doctor. And then you're like, oh, it's okay that he's a murdering alien.
Because he murdered I could see that.
Because he killed the bad guy.
Yeah. But I mean, like, his thing that he got, his ship gets struck by lightning was how he's crashed, but he was bringing, like, a planet killer to kill Earth. Like,
Oh, yeah.
he's a bad alien.
And he's like, I just want to get back to my mission and kill all these people.
Yeah.
If I could do that, I'd be great.
It's a weird tightrope you have to walk because he's like, he has affection for Earth people and he finds it all interesting, but at the same time, his mission is to kill all of them, and he's totally okay with that.
Yeah. No, the relationship they established with his partner, who is kind of in the middle of a spousal abuse type situation, gives us our like first turn with him, where at the beginning of the episode you see him watching Law and Order over and over again, trying to learn how to be a human.
Yeah.
And then at the end, it's like the more he's exposed to this woman who's just trying to be nice to him, the more he's like, well, crap.
Yeah.
I guess I gotta have a heart of gold.
Kyle, you gonna watch more of this?
Probably. I will say I could see myself having a little more fun with this on a binge.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is going to be like I've been watching The Unicorn pretty regularly. That's like a good example of like a show that kind of makes my week-to-week binge or my week-to-week rotation.
Yeah.
So I may wait for this one and then we can talk about it again. But I will say from a production standpoint, they do a lot of green screen stuff to kind of mimic a picturesque Denver, Colorado, or not Denver, but
It's
like
Alaska.
somewhere.
They did Alaska?
I thought they had said Colorado, but maybe it is Alaska.
I thought it was Alaska because it's kind of remote and small towny, but I'm not really sure.
Looks like a James Bond movie because, I mean, it is just like gorgeous and it's definitely green screens, but the technology is like at a point where they get a lot out of those green screens. Like some of these scenes are just, comic moments, but have beautiful backgrounds of lakes and mountains.
Yeah. You're right, by the way. It is small town Colorado.
That is a rarity for me. I am.
Take the win,
like,
Kyle.
What's that guy's name?
But anyway, yeah, super fun and surprising. I mean, not super surprising that Alan Tudyk could be in a great show, but surprising that Sci-Fi hooked me with this. And if they weren't trying so hard to keep it from me, I would keep watching it.
Yeah, that just what we need. They're going to come out with their own streaming service, and it's like, isn't this what you wanted? And it's like, no, we already have 20 of these.
Sci-Fi Plus.
Yeah, I need to get into bed with Hulu or something.
Speaking of Hulu, you watch 2 shows on Hulu, neither of which are Hulu originals, but one of which is a remake of the other. So talk to me about Miranda and Call Me Kat.
Yeah, I was wasting all my good stuff off mic because this is just like a really interesting kind of moment in TV that, I'm spectating at, which is 10 years ago, this show Miranda over on the BBC. It's one of those like Seinfeld. The actress name is really Miranda.
Yeah. Okay.
And kind of the whole stick, I'm going to pull up her full name here in a second, but kind of her whole, the backbone of this show is that she's got a very unique body type. She's very tall, she has broad shoulders, and she gets a lot of physical humor out of just the shape of her body, much in the way like Stephen Merchant does stuff with just being really super tall.
Yeah. Miranda Hart. Miranda Hart is her name.
Yeah, Miranda Hart. And here we have this British sitcom where she essentially plays this, coming of age, but she's a little later in the age. Her mom wants her to get married. She's having no luck with love. Her friend who she runs a business with, which is like a joke shop that she lives above, is really wanting her to get serious with the business and not always be goofing around. It's a lot of similar sitcom tropes.
Okay.
And then the comedy builds. And, before I talk about this any further, if, one of our British friends were listening right now and they told me that this was like the equivalent of their Big Bang Theory, or something along that line, because it does have a laugh track, it might be kind of hard to argue with them. But there's definitely, a place for like a fast food burger and like a gourmet burger. And this is definitely like the comfort food, fast food burger in terms of these jokes are going to hit similar beats. And your resolution at the end is going to be very much kind of like the, Curb or Seinfeld method, where the joke has been building the whole episode to kind of crescendo at the end, which in the first episode of Miranda, season 1, episode 1, we're introduced to a her hunky, dream guy, Lucifer. Who's that? Is that Tom Ellis or is that the Superman?
Tom Ellis, yeah.
Tom Ellis.
Yeah.
Tom Wellington. That's the guy who plays Superman.
Superman. Yeah.
Yeah, I always get them confused, and then they were on Lucifer together. It makes it even more confusing. But he plays a much younger him. Plays this. I'm 10 years younger, not much, but he plays this like hunky guy who she will they won't they. She's had a thing before, she hasn't, and then just kind of comedic circumstances happen. She's about to hook up with him. He opens the door. Her apartment's full of baby stuff. Not because she's like baby crazy, but because, they accidentally got this wrong order sent to their business, dun, dun. Or like, she goes with her friends to try on wedding dresses. And how crazy would it be if he walked by and saw her in the window trying on a wedding dress?
Oh, no.
Oh, no. But what's really funny is she then runs after him like The Graduate or something in this wedding dress, like pretty much chasing after, hunky Tom Ellis down the street. It's pretty hilarious. And then that's the credits rolling as her chasing him.
Okay.
So there's a lot to like about this show. And I feel like 10 years ago, we would have been exposed to 10 years less of the Big Bang Theory. So this would have probably hit a lot harder back then than it is now. But I like this. It's kind of similar to IT Crowd in terms of that is a British sitcom with a laugh track and yada, yada. Bring us to today. 2020. Okay. All right. Fox has remade this. All right. Office style. Because that's the thing. There's the British Office, which was great, but then American Office became its own thing and just took off. So you're always looking like, is one of these remakes going to take off? They were definitely talking about The Office when they were pitching this show. This could be the next Office. And what they did is, in a lot of ways, they did like a beat for beat remake of this, even using large portions of the script, like the bit about needing to get married. There's kind of a stand-in for the Tom Ellis character, who's like a hunky bartender. She finds herself in a few of the similar situations, but the real thing here is kind of that, making fun of, the body shape. Like in the first episode of Miranda, one of the whole bits is she's looking to get made up, and she accidentally walks into like a place where drag queens get made up. So she gets made up really well, but it's by a drag queen who makes her up.
Yeah.
So she's walking around in all this drag stuff, and they never went that far in the Call Me Cat. Like, for instance, the actress who played Blossom, you called her out earlier. What's her name?
Mayim Bialik. Yeah.
Mayim Bialik. She is a pretty average body type. She looks like a normal person. She's like not too tall or short or, round or wide or anything.
Right.
But they go to some lengths to like put her in, like cargo shorts with the zip ties, and like she's got her t-shirt tucked in and just really trying to frump her up to make her look like, oh, this awkward girl who can't get a break in life. But really that's not the case. So all the beats that they kind of take from the British version that were predicated on, no, this girl is literally trying to fit in because she's a weird size. They did not really hit that hard. But they did have a couple of new things that I thought were working. This actor, hold on, I'm going to pull his name up.
Okay.
This guy is a TikTok star. All right. And I guess he was discovered through that, but now he's a series regular on this show, and he's probably one of the most unique characters in terms of like voice and presence.
Okay.
And one of the unique jokes that they do in this one is in order to go to this wedding with a +1, she has to be dating her +1. So she invites this very effeminate, older, like gray hair old gentleman who works at her cafe with her, and then tells everybody that they're dating because, that's super realistic. But then he ends up being the hit of the party. And really, the hit of the show thus far, if you ask me, I think they're 5 episodes in at the end of January as when we're recording this. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, if you look at some of these screenshots, yeah, she is a very... If maybe you don't think she's like the pretty... I mean, she's a pretty girl, but like she's normal looking. She's not... Like Miranda Hart is very unique.
Yeah.
Weird. I feel like I'm somehow being like I'm mansplaining like body issues to. I gotta stop this.
Does it not work? Do you think? Do they need someone who's got more of a unique like body, like a more of a unique look, or do they make it work?
I don't think they need to remake the show that Miranda Hart made. Mm-hmm. I think if they can glean, some stories from some of the stuff they did, then maybe that's a good thing. But I hope this tries to get its own voice and become its own thing. I mean, it's got its own name. It'd be kind of hard to call it Miranda and not have Miranda in it.
That'd be funny if it was.
I don't know. There's part of me that is a little disappointed. Yeah, like, why not have Miranda Hart in this? And now she's even more out of water because she's a Brit dealing with all the same issues, but in 2020, COVID America. That's another thing. It's one of those shows that was either filmed pre-COVID or the show takes place in a non-COVID TV universe.
Right.
Which a lot of shows are doing. There's nothing wrong with that. But I do think that, at least for me personally, and I'm biased, I would have loved to see a Miranda Hart American, version of that show.
Right. Now the question is, now we know the British shows like The Office, and I know there's other ones that have translated that basically like their first season is just like a slavish recreation and it doesn't work, and then it finds its own voice and becomes its own thing. Do you think it's possible that could happen with Call Me Kat?
I would say yes. The one thing that worries me is this is on Fox.
Yeah.
So it's like, I feel like Fox shows, they just want to get those episodes out. And, if you have some, like, Brooklyn Nine-Nine is, well, actually, it's not on Fox anymore. But, right. I mean, Brooklyn Nine-Nine was really great on Fox for a really long time, so it can be done. But, yeah, I feel like a lot of the sitcom stuff on Fox is just like, let's get it out.
Now, this is interesting. The creator of this show is Darlene Hunt, who did I Heart Huckabees, Idiocracy, and The Big C. That's a pretty different type of...
I love I Heart Huckabees.
She's also one of the producers on Dickinson, but she wrote all of those. So it's interesting. And I guess she wrote an episode of Roseanne, the reboot. She's written 2 episodes of The Connors, written an episode of The Goldbergs. So I guess she maybe found her way into sitcoms, but it looks like her style prior to this was maybe much more like dramedy. I don't know.
Interesting, yeah. And Dickinson has huge rankings. I bet you that's going to be winning some awards.
Yeah, we'll see. Well, anyway,
everybody's ranking that high.
That, I think, is it for us this week. Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you, Randy.
And thank you to our listeners. Thank you to our patrons. And we'll be back with more next week. And until that time...
TV Dudes out!
The TV Dudes is an independently run podcast out of Austin, Texas. We are exclusively listener supported. If you'd like to help us out, go to patreon.com/TVDudes.
You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at TV Dudes. All the music for our show is done by our friend and original TV Dude, Gregory J. Amani Smith.
To find out more about us, go to thetvdudes.com. I'm Randy Lander.
I'm Les Weiler.
And I'm Kyle Scott.
Thanks for listening.